So how do you start to build this into your culture, to build this into your way of operating within your business? The very first thing is that you are going to have to create this as a core value within your business. You're going to have this discussion with your team. If you've not created any core values yet, you don't even have to mention that this is in fact a core value and by something by which all of you will operate. You just have to say, hey, this is the way we're going to do things, and this is my expectation from you. They've got to understand what your standards are, why you're doing this, and why it is really important. And you're probably going to have to reinforce it a few different times. I'm going to drop a definition of operating by agreements into this module below. Take that. I want you to journal on it, make it your own, but take that as a framework for what you can do and build for within your business. Now, obviously, we can have this discussion in any of our upcoming group sessions or our one-on-one. So if you have questions around how to turn this into something that works a little bit better for your business, then bring your questions to one of our sessions coming up. But that's the first part. You've got to clearly have this open conversation with your team around this is what you want to have happen in your business. And you're going to have to do it more than once, and you're going to have to reinforce it. And later down the road, I'd even have one of your teams speak into what they understand the definition of operating by agreements to be, and then have open conversations around that. So that's the first part. The second part is you're going to use a really powerful question that at the end of every single agreement that you create. And that is, will this work for you? Now, I'm telling you right now, the very first time that you say this to your team, they are probably going to pacify you with the answer of, oh, yes, that works. And you're going to have to go back and be like, I'm asking you seriously, will this work for you? Look, my expectation is that when you say yes, this is going to be done in this way and by this due date. So if it does not work for you, I need you to have an open conversation with me about that. That is what I want. I do not want you to pacify me. I want you to have an open conversation around, will this work? Now, again, this is something you're probably going to have to beat into your team a little bit, and you're going to have that part of the conversation with them on repeat until they understand that this is the way you actually want to operate. This question is really powerful for a number of different reasons. First, it's going to surface any type of hidden constraint that they're realizing on their side. So maybe I go to Joe and I'm like, hey, Joe, I need a draft of this presentation by next Friday. This is the context around what it is. This is what success would look like for this presentation to be complete. This is my entire needs. Can you do this by next Friday? Now, maybe I don't know that Joe just got a text that one of his kids is really, really sick and he's going to be home from school. And Joe's wife is out of town and now he's going to have to watch his kid. And so next Friday seems like a pretty tight timeline for him. This opens up the possibility of that conversation where he comes back and he's like, well, Christy, look, my kid, I just got the message from school. I actually have to run out the door to go get him. He's really, really sick. I anticipate he's going to be home for the next few days. I don't know if I can make Friday as a deadline. My wife is out of town on business. It's just me here. We've got 3 other kids. Will Saturday, Sunday work for you after she comes back? And maybe I can get a little more time in front of my computer. This opens up that possibility for me to realize that, hey, there's something on his side, some sort of constraint that's holding him back. And now we can have an open conversation around that, because does it matter if it's Friday for me or if it's Sunday for me? Probably not a lot. Maybe I don't really want to work on the weekends, but it's probably not a big deal. And if that means that he's going to actually have the time to devote to it that he needs to, then yeah, that's workable for me. I'm good with that. I can handle it. If I don't open up that possibility, then maybe I don't know that these things are occurring. He agrees to something, and then the due date just gets passed because he's got other things going on at home. I want to be workable in this situation. I want him to know and have the power to say when things don't work. It also invites a lot of ownership. This one question invites a lot of ownership in that, again, I just want him to own the outcomes, or anybody to own the outcomes. I don't want to own every single step of how we get from point A to point B. I just want him to own the results at the end. And this invites him to have that level of ownership and that level of buy-in that's needed for him to have that ownership. And it invites the possibility that in the future, he'll just come to me with his own timeline, or when he realizes there's a project I need to have completed, but maybe I haven't asked anybody to complete for me. And that's what we really want from our team. This is what creates high performers. This is how we start to also, really test out alignment and the possibility of execution, maybe in certain projects we're not even certain about. If I start to outline a project, then I'm like, hey, I need this by, such and such date. Will that work for you? And you're like, I do not know how to do this. This is going to take me a lot of research in order to figure it out. I'm probably going to have to try a few things. It opens up the possibility for that conversation. And I can start to understand a little bit more around how you think, whether or not stuff like this would align for you to even do as a possibility. And so we really do want to have those types of conversations because it starts to enable us to see where we might expand our team's skill set, our existing team skill set just a little bit, and give them the possibility to grow into a bigger, better, or a future role. Happens if our team member does agree to a due date. Maybe Joe's kid was not yet sick, but then he gets sick after we've had this conversation, and he can't complete the project or the presentation by next Friday. What happens then? Well, that is when our team members need to recreate that agreement with us. They need to come back to us and say, hey, Christy, my kid just got sick. I know we had a due date for next Friday for this presentation. I'm not sure I'll be able to complete it by then. I will absolutely try my hardest, but does it work for you if I get it completed by Sunday? Look, my wife's out of town. She's out of town on business. I've got all the kids this week. Now my kid is sick and at home. Will Sunday work? Can I do this by Sunday? This creates the possibility of, again, recreating that agreement when things come up. Look, all of us should be completely reasonable in the fact that life does happen. But what we want from our team, that anytime they can't actually fulfill on the agreement that they made, that they have, and they know as soon as they know that is a possibility they might not meet that deadline, that they come to us with that possibility. They come to us with other alternatives. Now, this extends beyond due dates. This could even be something around skill set. If you said, hey, can you complete this presentation? And then Joe realizes he doesn't know anything about this one key factor in the presentation, and that he's going to need either to outsource this to someone, or he's going to need someone to find additional support, and that's going to take him a little longer. This creates a space to have those conversations as well. Anything that is holding us back from actually achieving what we need to achieve by the time we said we were going to achieve it by, we need to be having those open conversations. What we don't want our team to do is to hoard that information for themselves, or to push themselves and burn themselves out, or to just kind of ghost us and not let us know at all, and then things just aren't getting done. We don't want that even to exist as a possibility in our organization, because that's when you get pulled back in. As founder, as CEO, you get pulled back in and you have to scramble to get these things done on your own. That's what limits your possibility of freedom significantly. It has such a huge impact mentally, physically. It's not something we want to exist. And so having the space to have these open conversations around recreating agreements that, don't work for us any longer does open the possibility that we're going to know ahead of time that something might be standing in the way. Now, if this starts happening on repeat, then that's a performance-based conversation. That comes up on our one-on-one, and that affects how we view their performance as a whole. This shouldn't happen frequently. It should be a one-off situation where this, that, or the other has happened and has held them back from fulfilling upon the agreement. The standard is we fulfill upon our agreements when we say we're going to do it, not, oh, we have an agreement and now we're going to recreate it, and now we're going to recreate it. And you as CEO and leader have to be firm in that, and your team has to understand that, and they have to understand that the reason we're doing this is that none of us want to get it tied up in a situation where anyone's micromanaging anyone or any situation. And this is the way that we're going to do it. This is how we're going to create the space for all of us to operate autonomously, for all of us to get more confident in what it is that we're doing, and for all of us, again, to build this business in our vision for the future.